Hi.
Hey, I'm Matt Hill. I'm in the studio again, and I'm so fortunate to be here. I just thank God today because who's become a good friend of mine. We've got to physically meet today. Steve, and I'm going to have him introduce himself to you momentarily, but I want to make sure to say thank you to Pharaoh Energy Services for having the space for doing this. It's been really great to have friends that always give me space to platform important conversations, or at least great conversations for me. I hope for you. And on Fridays, I call this Fossil Fuel Fridays just for fun. It's kind of catchy.
That is good.
And we call this the Talking Energy Show, supported by Oilfield Tailgate. And ask me later, everybody, but I'm joining Mark and Madison with a vertical octane, and we're going to do fractionalized sales. And I'm really supporting a lot of people right now and getting them. I just love the idea of helping smaller companies build up platforms, for themselves and kicking open doors. And for, Night Tech, we've got the lithium ion battery solution that will extinguish fires. That's how I got to meet you because of it. I mean, almost 2 years ago now we started.
That was a God thing. Can we tell you how that happened?
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into this.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, Steve.
Well, the introduction is going to take a while. And
that's good.
All right,
I want it to. They're not here to hear me. They're here to hear you.
Well, you got the voice for radio. That's for sure.
Maybe. Thank you.
It's like make-a-wish for me in that I had vaccine damage. And God, I can't do it. My kidneys are going, so you're in that situation. So everything you've learned, you want to get out there. We were talking that before we went on mic.
Yeah.
So I'll get through that. But we got a variety of topics here. I have about 4,000 hours with lithium awareness, and we don't make any money on it. I started that out with a battery fire. I have at that time, he was 87-year-old father-in-law, rode a 3-wheel trike, and the batteries caught on fire in the back of my pickup. I chose my Ford, okay, and by the grace of God, they didn't go off near my gas tank. It would have just been a disaster, but they're still messy. So with that, I had 10 fire people out at my house, okay? There's a little bit to that, but I'm going to cut it short. And they were there for, 5-6 hours doing nothing, because they couldn't do anything.
There wasn't, even then they already knew there really wasn't anything to do.
So I had 2 sheriffs, I had the watch commander, and I had somebody from hazmat and so forth. But I already had contained it because I saw something on social media and drug it in a bucket. Okay. And so with that, because I was, and I'll go back into this a little bit, sorry to repeat myself, 13 years in hazmat, I built about 300 car washes. So my thing with the oil is more on the retail side. But in the hazardous material, I was, the 5 types of asbestos, I was in that, and I'll get into that. So I'm jumping around.
That's okay. I mean, the reason I have you here is because we aligned and found so much common ground over our course of our conversations for so long. And fortunately, you were driving through Oklahoma to get, off to a little vacation time. But at the end of the day, we all talk about over and over again, energy is our industry now. It's not just oil and gas. And we're adding... Yeah. We're adding lithium ion and BESS systems to all over the globe, and I'm in, the fire and safety things, and here he comes along.
Like Moss Landing,
California. There's so much going on in California that just, I got to see your energy industry making all these changes. So over and over again, you see all the time that I find people to give me a bigger picture of, global energy, upstream, midstream, downstream demand. And you've been a godsend. You have so much knowledge to fit into here. That's why I want you to keep listening, everybody.
So here I went off the track, so I'm not going to do any more thing on that. But the situation we're going to talk about a number of topics, lithium, because when you have podcasts, they start out real nice, and then you got to wait 20 minutes to get any meat.
You've got meat on the bone on every topic known to man so far. He's been a oracle.
So we're going to do lithium. I'm not going to go into too much of the basics, but you need to know that the different cell types and the chemistry and things like that, and then the elephants in the room, which are going to impact your people dramatically. We're going to go into the details on recycling, how that's a big negative, and it's almost impossible. Okay, and I'm not being negative. What my deal is
limitations by
when you introduce a product, don't field test it on the world. Okay, and it's being pushed by two countries mainly. So, and today, our president is in China right now. So that's it. So anyway, those things, we're going to get into some of the brief things on awareness. 140 degrees is when those batteries start to get very
Spicy.
active. Yes. And you got to treat them like live animals, and people don't. Okay, so you have them constantly swelling on certain battery types like pouch. There's misapplications where they use multi-pack. Okay, you got FAA going crazy because we're starting to get them burning up on airplanes. We're going to talk about.
No place to pull over and toss those out the window.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I got almost kicked up. I got chastised, years ago, and maybe we'll get to it. So we have that, and a variety of different things. I'll recalls. We're going to talk about EVs, non-Tesla. We're going to talk about the problems with those. There's 1.1 million EVs out. The United States has 7 million EVs, roughly, give or take. And so we're going to go back and talk about why the Lightning.
Does that conclude like all the little devices like scooters and stuff like that?
No.
No.
Those are I'm sorry, just licensed EV cars.
EVs for roads.
So you get into mobility.
Right.
You get into personal electronic devices, which are PEDs. I like to spell it out when you say instead of PEDs.
You made me take notes. Like, don't use those.
Don't use that. So if you say like OH, state of health on a battery. So we'll get into the terminology. So if you really do your own research, you can understand it. But after this, what you're going to have is a handle on it to protect your family and so forth. We're going to go deep in the recalls. If you don't listen any further, then go to recalls.gov and get your recalls from FDA, National Highway Traffic Safety, just everything that you pay money for, you get a report. Okay, so you're gonna be able to save a lot of people with that. It's super critical. All right, so do that. Please do that. And then the other one that's the main one is 140 degrees. So if you're running guys you're running Milwaukee, that's Red Tools are my brand, even though they're owned by China. When you go deep into it, you lay those on a job site in the sun. If you don't know that, they're going to get to 150 degrees real quick. And even though it doesn't catch fire on you then, you're degrading your batteries.
And you're tossing them in the backseat of your truck and you're driving down the road, right?
And then we'll get into generics and knockoffs, which are super, super important because that's one of the biggest problems in China. It's one thing to do a Gucci bag, but not one of these things. So we'll talk about what's in the smoke, although you got to be careful because you're going to get limited, but it's basically, and I find it super interesting that I'm the kind of guy, actually, when I see a fire truck, I go talk to the guys. I said, what do you know about batteries? What's this? Chemistry. How do you approach a fire? Stuff like that. And I'm very surprised that some guys are really good, some guys.
It's a lot to get funding to go get training. It just is.
Well, it's not easy. Hope I'm not shaking on this.
You're not.
So you got all those things that combine into lithium awareness. So you got consumer. Big thing in California right now is, or anywhere in the United States, is doing, I call it this way, and they should pick up this terminology. I tried, but it didn't catch. Okay, so you're hearing it first. So you have utility scale BESS, so UBESS.
We are fascinated by this because we really do have a network really thinking that maybe on every single well site in the nation, we could potentially have, some kind of genset running off of natural gas. We have so much gas. We need to use it. So we can, and hey, we're in oil and gas. We want to drive demand. So why wouldn't we build out another business on every, well site? So we have the turbine engine, we have a BESS system, and and the reason being they'll just offer so much cleaner amperage,
Well, that's another thing. When you get it, wait a minute.
Battery backups are a lot clean. If I have that genset up and down,
here's what you're going to have.
But at the end of the day, data centers I just don't see the scalability of these super data center sizes whenever we could do like the microgrid out stuff, especially on the genset side of things too. Besides just power for maybe a data center on every single well site across the nation, what if we can add to power to the grid right then and there at scale, depending on the.
You got a lot of different things to put one in to put it properly, and then if you can talk about bringing in the chip making and things like that. So we can talk about all that. But what you're going to get into, if you want to know what the future is I have a section on that.
Okay,
so we're going to go with your
best systems are coming everywhere. So I want
it's like this.
They are. I just want people to be aware of what they have.
Anywhere, think of it as anywhere you can plug into the grid. It's, everybody says put in a desert. Well, no. Anywhere there's a substation, you can pop them in the grid. They're going to have there, and then you have to fit your inverter in there and so forth. So anything in there, okay.
I installed those. I used to work for Marconi.
Well, that's the depth of it. So if we want to cover lithium and the hazards up front rather than some of the other stuff, more than happy to.
I agree with you in the future, though. We'll get to the nuclear stuff, too. Don't worry.
Well, I gave you notes. Like
we have a lot of things to go over.
The faintest of ink is better than the best memory. So I got a stack of paper here.
Well, let's start with our. Well, we've already got a little start with him, and I may or may not interrupt him again. We'll see.
Well, you can. But anyway, if you think of it this way, if it really goes the way people, and you got to understand that, like if you call in expert witness for a battery you get into, whatever it is, great case today that just came up. Interesting on how insurance is working on this. Because insurance is our quality control. Lawyers used to be. Okay? So they are. And that's what will tell you the direction if something's going bad or not. But anyway, get me back on topic because I am tired. We're talking about the BESS, so it's utility grade, residential grade, and C, commercial grade. So CBESS. So you're usually 200 megawatt and above.
Okay.
So if you look at San Onofre in California or San Juan Capistrano, those are 2 gigabyte. Gig. Excuse me. Sleep's wonderful. So you have those, and it scales down. And then in California, the biggest issue is everything from the coast where they want the stuff is where the people are is upwind. And anybody knows, just like a cowboy, you always drink upwind of the herd. You have to drink out of the stream. Same thing. So the problem you have is with all those, when they do go off, they cause a problem. So I'll start in Moss Landing. Moss Landing.
That made the news here. That's a big deal then.
Didn't make it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Honest to goodness.
Wow.
If you ask people what's an aspirated injection, which got me, versus unaspirated injection of a vaccine, even in a hospital, they don't know. So anyway, it's equivalent. And people don't know. I was working with those community groups up there. Okay. So I was feeding data to them. So they sound like and that's what Lithium
to be
does.
Against best systems,
well,
or just be more knowledgeable in education.
You think we should lead off with Moss?
Sure.
Seriously.
I mean, everybody should understand. Like, hey, there's just going to be lithium-ion batteries.
I mean, Moss is a real interesting topic. So
Yeah.
we'll start off with the one on how states react, and that's how I'm going to react to other states because I've lived in the Midwest. Okay, I took my fun years in the Midwest. I raced motorcycles. We lived in a town that had strip mining, soft coal. We had all of these. Okay, so I'm 25,000 hours old. Let's say so. If you do 3,650 for every 10 years, so then you do the multiplier on that. So that gets you around HR sometimes, but we aren't HR on it. So it's 69 years
No
old.
HR in this room.
So in 1957, okay, just to cut it, and I want to give you the things that really will mobilize somebody to really go after it. Mine is ethics and morals. Even though, all Christians are hypocrites, we all have that side of us, okay? So when there's something that's that way. So you mentioned a guy, off camera that lost 3 children, or 1 child. I lost 3 at 22 weeks, okay, birth. And that was because you had 2 drugs, thalidomide, which, no arms and legs in California had centers until they all died off. They were taking care of him. And he had sebestrol. Sebestrol caused a T-shaped uterus, so most of the women went into contractions at 22 weeks. So we kept trying on that. And then we got involved with surrogacy through the University of Southern California. And that's where I learned the legal system tremendously, which led into the hazardous materials, which I really learned legal. So I've been involved in things that blew up and caught fire a lot. Even the home I grew up in. Okay. So I think that's a blessing. But when you look back on all this, this is one of the reasons I'm here, just like the fellow you talked about. You want to help the young people. I don't want you to go through what I went through because getting over your regrets is the biggest thing in life. You can use it as lead weights and destroy you, or you can use it as, stair steps, but you got to pass it on. So taking a jump back and the way God blesses you, and if you're an atheist, fine, you're still going to learn a lot on this one. Guarantee you, because a lot of times I have, hey, give me 15 minutes and it goes 2 hours. And there's a guy that has a T-shirt because he talks about cars and the 8 and 10 speed transmissions, all those recalls and all that. We'll get into that too. Environmental, why they're that way, why we're having all these recalls. So if you have a 5.3 and your 6.2 and your Ford transmissions and all that, we'll talk about recalls too. It's 71 million recalls right now, safety recalls, okay, out of 320 automobiles in the United States.
Wow.
Non-Tesla, 1.1. And if you own a Jeep 4xe, you posted something recently, but what came over today was a lady had a 4xe, or no, it was anyway, 342,000 peep, and then we'll get back on Moss.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I have
We've had lots of conversations
going back.
on the phone.
So I apologize for you guys to be scattered like that. But
You better when you're going to want to reach out to him immediately and call him. I'll give you his phone number and he'll be inundated. Fascinating at all times, and be prepared for some brain expansion and brain dumps. Did you start that LinkedIn group, by the way? I'm always curious. The brain expansion group. I think that's the very first conversation we had. I found a group in LinkedIn that has.
Spend 3.5 hours a day on the computer.
I know you are very voracious in your appetite for research.
And one thing I'm going to start here. And when you're a sales guy, one thing is there's steps in a sale: approach, qualification, agreement on needs, sell yourself, sell the company step. But when you're going to sell somebody, and that's my profession. I'm a sales professional. It's different than. But I started out as a salesman. I started out as a service guy in a service truck. Right out of high school. So and I don't have any problem talking to people that are PhDs whenever, except I can't spell. Great in math. And we'll talk about that too when it talks about raising a child. Because I had a great son. And so anyway, so I was involved in the UCI infertility scandal. If people don't know that, there actually was a movie of the week on that. We were like the fourth case, discovered. All right. So you had 3 guys that invented the gift program: Ash, Bomsada, and Stone, UCI Irvine. And they were hyperstimulating women to produce a lot of eggs. And they were picking on the men with brown eyes, brown hair, blonde-haired, blue-eyed women. Okay. So actually, anyway. So Ricardo Ash had on his back of his Ferrari Mr. Gift.
Wow.
Yeah. And so bottom line is they were selling eggs and embryos all over the world. Embryos, eggs. College, university, they didn't care. Okay. And that was back when we called series sheet. They didn't have computers. They did it all in paperwork. Okay, so we saw those and everything else. We even were able to capture. So I was involved with, and I need to introduce myself in a few other ways, but I'm jumping ahead like this. But when I talk about myself, and I use this in selling, is I'm not patting myself on the back when I tell you my background and other things. And you got to use that because people think they're bragging on themselves. I'm not. I'm just trying to help. Okay. So bear that in mind, and I will repeat myself on that. So anyway, after that, you got involved with, that was an amazing part of my life because there's a lot of people going through infertility now. So when you talk about contractions and all the drugs they give the women to, you've been divorced before. So my first marriage, 27 years, that's what it was, and now I'm on my third. And one tip is, you don't call them by names. You call them by number 1, number 2, and number 3. And hopefully keep them on one hand.
I don't know if I have that many letters. I'll have to get to where I have numbers and letters combined.
I could that's an innuendo that's wide open. Right. So essentially, my third wife, she's got 3 diamonds.
Okay.
Hers is the biggest, and then 2 others.
That's funny.
It's out there. You got to talk about it.
Yeah,
right? So combined, it's 35, 36 years. Okay. And maybe we'll get into some of that, but I'm talking too much about the past. But anyway, so that's when I got into lawyers, law, and it helped me later in life when I was dealing with all the major oil companies, Shell, Mobil, not as the national account manager, but I was in the field doing the installs. So I did 300 of those. So you handle it, project management, you do all the bids, you do the scope of work, you do everything on it. So I made up this phrase. I mean, it was one thing about being old. As you can go back to this stuff.
I wish you would never call yourself old next to me. How about seasoned?
No.
Tenured.
That sounds like barbecue, but we're in the right state for it. So anyway, where was I at?
Shell, Mobile, Install.
Yeah. So what I worked with is they had all of these. Like in Southern California, we did 3. I did 3. I was managing 300, and the territories were cut, a number of times in 13 years. I think we started out with 8 techs, ended up with 18. It's a team. I didn't do it, but I certainly, worked hard for it. So then you had service contracts, service agreements, so, chemical dosimeters, rotational equipment, pumps, all different types of things, all the different types of compressors, screw compressors and all that stuff, dealing with water, reclaim, things like that. So when you wash a car with a rollover automatic, this will mean something because if they ever go after you for water shortage and in the Southwest, it's into it. You use actually about 32 gallons of water to wash a car. And if you have hard water, you run in reverse osmosis. You use 1 gallon of water on the best case to produce maybe a half a gallon of spot-free water. So anyway, I'm going all over the map here.
I like it. I mean,
No, I
nothing
know.
I don't want to pick your brain about, but I just know I did want to, energy prices out in California. I mean, you just left there to come, on your way through North America, on your way to go see your wife and go see some races in part of Eastern United States. But what's everybody's kind of bandwidth out there on energy? Are they starting to rally behind the idea of bringing back their own refineries and letting people get back into
Well, as you know,
drilling complete? I mean, you have Signal Hill out there, you have Bakersfield. California was such a hotbed for oil and gas production for so long, and then you're sitting on massive amounts of resources out there. California is a gold mine, if you will, whatever you want to say, but you just have so many natural resources that California should not be struggling with
yeah.
how much it costs for energy for people out there.
Good question.
It
Keep
breaks
on
your
topic.
heart.
I'll roll through that.
Okay.
But when I first transferred out there in '84, unbelievable place to learn. Let's put it that way. So they say there's fruits and nuts and a lot of flakes. So
Okay.
I don't, and you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 2.
Okay.
It's totally not true. My first house I bought out there in '87.
Oh, and pull that mic. I want to hear. I want to make sure everybody hears you.
The first house was 172,000. That was a big stretch. Okay, and now it's worth 1.1. And I liked it so much after my first divorce, I bought it again for 2017, 18. And I bought that for 545,000.
Ouch.
Yeah. So as far as we'll go, your first question, take a note. Your actually energy cost. So there's a number of different, like in San Diego, you have SDG&E, Southern Cal Edison in Orange County general area, and then you draw a horizontal line through Bakersfield, California. And so Southern California, maybe 20 million people, give or take. What time of day it is. Okay. And then you get into
Just a staggering amount of people.
Yeah, Northern California, and then you have Pacific Gas and Electric, and that's PG&E generally is the highest. They're nuts. I don't even want to go into it. You can go anywhere on YouTube. I can recommend a couple guys to watch for, but they're the absolute highest. Southern California Edison, you have 2 charges on it, and those are changing. Okay, and they're changing on demographics. But essentially, if you own, let's say, and I'll do it by houses.
Okay.
Now it's different here. Okay, because you're at $225 a square foot construction cost. Right now with the fires, you're at $450 plus. And that'll help you when I talk about insurance, because there's a lot of people that were totally underinsured, okay? And they're crying. And so we can, that's a whole nother deal on how to protect yourself, but basically do the math on your insurance policy, okay? And if you don't have enough to cover that structure, call your agent, add it on, because just like realtors, there are 110,000 realtors in Southern California. So I like to do these graphics. So if you lay all the realtors flat, say, so give it like 100,000, so you're 100,000, altitude, 100,000 feet up. That's a lot. And very few of them, there's only maybe, they're great people. I love them. We can talk about that when we get into salesmanship. And when you get retired, because I retired 10 years ago.
You're not retired. You're the
you're busier than imagine.
You're the least retired person.
There it is. Well, that's ageism is something, because they won't hire you when you're getting close to it, buddy.
No, I'm not.
Because
I'll be running my own thing there. I can't age out of my own.
well,
I can't age out of my own office.
W-2, 1099, and then cash is totally different.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the
just general energy.
Southern Cal Edison. If
ideas
you're a
right
wealthy
now.
home and you have a EV, you're going to be at 65 cents a kW hour. Okay, and that's broken down into delivery charge. So your delivery charge is half of that roughly, and then that. So it's on a tiered pricing. It's not time of use. And you know what I'm talking about?
Why do they do that?
Tiered. You can go time of use, meaning you pay more during your peak hours. But I think they did that because they're going to have to support some of the lower income because they can't afford their bill. Like my son's bill, and I don't remember the state, he's in and everything else like that, but his bill there is $100 a month. And if it was where I live most of the time, you're going to be at $600-700. That's how much different it is. So you run from 14 cents all the way up to 65. Okay. Now, so you have, when you hit your first tier, if I remember right, it's like 18 cents, and then you hit your second tier. So a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a 1,500 square foot house is kind of the norm that they're picking on, okay? And that, if you have a pretty decent HVAC system, maybe good SEER rating, recent refrigeration upgrade, which is changing now, okay? That would be not a mini split, but a split system. Like Goodman's buying the market out there, okay? And we can talk about that, a lot of that stuff. And we'll talk about that when we get into weather change and not climate change.
Weather's going to change regardless.
No, there's because you go up these. I'm right. Okay, I'm on the right side of politics.
We just don't think about it that much in Oklahoma. We just don't, because out there it's such a hot topic, because everything that has to do with anything, just from our purview, okay? But if anything happens in California,
you'll see it.
It just seems to also get tied back to some kind of policy, political delusion that has to stem from climate change, which always impacts oil and gas and energy people.
Well, this is gonna be tough on people backing up in a podcast because we jump all over. But remember Moss Landing. But with Moss Landing, the reaction, the state after the fire that they had up there, and that was equal to 40,000 Tesla S's with a 2,000-pound battery. That's 100 million pounds of batteries that burned in 72 hours. And that particular facility had a fire right after construction at 2022, and then only 6 months in June of 24, right? June of 20, it burned in 25, January 25. So
well, we only saw the one on the news.
Well, most people did too.
Yeah.
But what it was is a natural gas generating station. There's a few up in that area, San Luis Obispo and a few others, and they just gutted it and they used it for putting in. And so that inside had, when you talk about megawatts, different than megawatt hours. Okay. So take your child and everybody and learn Ohm's law. Very important. Watts, amps, volts. And because when you talk a lot of the people, depending on, pro EV and everything, they talk watts and kilowatts and all this other stuff. But I mean, we can get into that.
We're going to get into everything, but I just see.
So anyway, learn that.
But Moss Landing.
Add, subtract, right now. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay. Yeah. Be upwind of a EV fire or any battery fire. Don't be a hero.
Get the heck out of there when you
learn Ohm's law.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Mandarin.
And Mandarin. Yeah, I don't.
You know German. I grew up in the same area.
I just see that. I mean, the way you're describing it is their policy is so pro alternative energy.
They have to.
That they put that out of their mind. Like, hey, in oil and gas, everybody sees the repercussions in their minds of whatever that might be, and so in their minds, well, the repercussions of oil and gas are all these disasters and climate change and all this stuff, and it's all their fault.
Well, outside of social media is, clickbait.
Narrative, and that's fine. They can spin it however they want, but they pick this over here, and that's bad, and everything that happens is bad. And then they pick Moss Landing's like, yeah, that incident happened, but it's it's a forgiving environment for it.
Well, let me go in some detail on that because I spent a lot of detail. I've almost probably watched every local media source. I saw the man practically in tears, Mr. Church, and the thing behind him was burning up. It was like the first night, and they had a news guy there, and they told me this wouldn't burn. They told me this was impossible. Okay, and that's what's going on. Now, I had a big stack of files I was going to bring here.
No,
I forgot.
That's fine.
But I still have a lot for you. So. Let's finish on that. So Senate Bill 283.
There we go.
Okay, after 9 months after that was the reaction from that February. And when you do research, this is really interesting for you. You can learn a lot without having to really dig into it, but you should. If you have a white paper, say you're getting money from the government for viral and all those other things, and I can tell you something about that because I got into that right during COVID. I was going to start a UVC and decontamination using UV light, which is fantastic because I use that in hazmat too. But I was going to model it off of what they do in Asia. Because remember, we shipped out all of the mercury tubes and everything else, and our brass foundries and everything else, along with all of our jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
Then they shipped in drugs. So anyway,
they ship us a lot.
I can say now that. Wait a minute, I got to qualify that because I had a nephew that he got hooked on Xanax, and then they started blending fentanyl in, and that's how they did it. Okay, they had things like that. So he eventually was trying to earn anything. He fell off a roof and, putting up Christmas lights.
And Xanax is like the chill,
Xanax is a chill
It's the
drug.
chill pill. Okay, gotcha. Chill pill.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah, no matter what happens.
Again, you find out every time he talks to me or things, now that we've done it, he's become aware that I'm pretty vanilla and
What?
not vanilla, naive in a lot of things because I grew up so sheltered from all that stuff. Like I've probably never seen a Xanax.
Okay. Well, when you're number one,
Yeah.
work for a major pharmaceutical company,
Right.
for 20 plus years, you're exposed to that. And I went to, look, I buy my clothes at Goodwill, and a lot of other places barely do. I buy new stuff. That's because a lot of your kids need money. You write checks, commas and zeros, and you try to teach them, get away from the credit cards. I got a great one when we get to raising a child. In fact, make a note of that, would you, on credit card, predatory credit card, really cool stuff. So anyway, when you get a white paper or even a Senate bill, okay, they go through revisions. So let's do a white paper by the federal government. So you have the first published, let's say it's January, okay, and then you have peer review, peer review, peer review. We've all heard that, Fauci deal, whatever you want to do. So maybe they have 30 contributors, okay. In those papers, they always have a hot link that you can go look at it. So read that summary, or you can start at the back end, okay, and you look at them. So there's 6 reviews, okay. You look for the ones that dropped out. Hey, we don't like you for this, we don't like you for that, this is crazy stuff, that sort of thing. And then you read those, and then you get an idea of, some of the politics involved, but you learn something. Here's what I learned. Because after I got the J&J vaccine, that shot, I was more brain dead than I was now. I mean, just wasted. And I was looking for everything. Little did I know my chest was pounding out of my body, and which killed my kidneys. That's what happens. And we can talk about COPD and when you're on the oil patch and everything, how do you protect yourself? Because I was in hazmat. And so I did my claim to fame in that was, if you want to call it fame, but when you're W-2, they get your patents. Okay, once again, is when composites came out, they had the resin system that's in it. When you grind and sand it, you re-release the resin with the heat, or you route it sometimes. I mean, I'm talking about on the production line at McDonnell Douglas, Southern California, where they take the wing, you stick it on the MD-80, if you remember that plane, and then they do the wing fillet. Okay, so when they make composite, and this is all new stuff, they're still using Kevlar. And Kevlar stinks like you wouldn't believe, and it's like it's nasty stuff.
I only have it in like chest plates.
Yeah, so when you do that, you autoclave when you're making it, and you use vacuum bags, and then all the air that comes out of it is filtered, charcoal and whatnot. So that's like when they made boats in Southern California. It's a boat place. Anybody that did the hulls and the fiberglass and all that stuff went to the high desert. They got it out of there because we have CARB, California Air Resources Board, okay? And there's a tie in there with our current governor. So what happened is when they were grinding it, it re-released the resin system, and you had polyamide resin, just like if you had a dull blade using the 5-axis router. And so that would re-release it, and these people were getting cancer, and it'd turn your reproductive stuff on a male into walnuts to be bold, sorry ladies. And so they were shutting down, everybody's going nuts. So what we decided to do is, I got brought into that. So with Nilfisk of America, it was just a toxic and hazardous division of about a $500 million company out of Denmark. So we had, if you looked up today, it was about a $6,000, $4,500 little 2-gallon vacuum. And the neat thing about it is you could take the top off of it, use it as a negative air machine, and you didn't have to put the people in respiratory protection. So that was our big deal, and we sold many, many of those. So anyway, on this, what we did is we got with the 3M guy, and this is way back when, before you saw every tool in the world with dust control on it. Okay, you walk into a wood shop, the only thing they cared about was flash fire. Okay, so what this is we had a 2-inch mini grinder, right angle grinder, 14,000 to 20,000 RPM, and then they had a pad that went in and locked. So 3M guy did perfect. We put holes in it, for our mock-ups,
okay.
And then that is standard. So they went with that. We made a shield out of it. I made a 9-inch grinder shield. They basically had a guy weld it up. It was our first one. So we used that for when you're on the deck of an aircraft carrier. They got all kinds. It's that thick. It's just amazing coatings. So when you grind that up, so with that, we sucked that stuff out into that back, and then we also had around the HEPA filter. And so there's HEPA and ULPA, and then you have pre-filters. So it's like, anyway, so you pre-filter all that stuff out. So when you want to change a HEPA, no big deal. There's no real contamination in there. You pop it up, squirt a little bit, and you dispose of it properly. And then, so then we ducted the exhaust to a charcoal filter, and the charcoal filter, this is real important because when you have laser or anything like that, which I got into later than that, I got into medical, it was really cool. You had to have dwell time over the charcoal because right now they have, they got a little square filter, and you have no dwell time. It just does penetrating. So you get that, it's a joke, okay? So we had that and problem solved. And so when we did the C-17 project, with that one, the big, okay, well, it's like...
No, I've been in an oil and gas silo for a very long time.
Okay, so the C-17 is like the F-150 for military, short takeoff and landing, high wing. It's the modern, like a C-141's, I think the turboprop. I'm getting those a little confused, but we worked on all of them. So anyway, we had the problem solved, MD-80. So we went with, and we had, we were up at the Skunk Works and did that all over. What was that? When they did the F-117, I was in where the B-2.
You see, he's got a lot of clearances that I would never.
Look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
You see how many topics I have to deal with every time I talk to him? I was like, what were we talking about when we started?
We're going to get back to Moss Landing.
I'm going to make him.
Just talk to my wife. She'll probably laugh.
Like, wait a minute. I asked you where the bathroom was, and I've had to go now for like 45 minutes.
It says you asked for the time, and I built you a watch.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a reason for that. So we're going to jump to a third topic.
Okay.
Is the largest release of nuclear radiation.
There we go. That's something you and I have talked
by
about.
10 time, 20 time fold in the 50s when we were playing around with sodium cooled reactors.
Okay.
And we have a sodium cooled reactor in the Arctic. I think we have one in Greenland. It's covered in ice right now from the 50s.
For now.
We have all kinds of stuff. Very interesting. My deal is World War II and that tech and things like that. So in the San Fernando Valley, 1949, 1950s, that's where they, in a place near Topanga Canyon in Chatsworth, and I was 7 miles, our family 7 miles downwind, but there wasn't a lot of people around there. So they did all their testing of rocket engines, Gemini, Atlas, Atlas II, the ICBMs, everything was up there. And my father worked for North American Aviation, who was tied in with Atomics International. And so that was I guess, like an LLC we do today.
Okay.
15 layers of LLC so you don't get sued.
Yeah, and they have it in a trust and buried in a, okay.
Gotcha. Unless you're, we'll get into that. We could get into that, but one of my personal things is I just see, and we taught China the private equity model. Okay, we can get into that when we talk about batteries.
Well, we have private equity in oil and gas, so, and we're we've done a really good job of moving money around in our industry.
It's a little different on a lot of the different things, but probably people over there know a lot. But if you don't know a lot about it, it's a good stepping stone for that because I went through the trauma of that when your companies get bought up 2 or 3 times and so forth. All right, so San Fernando Valley had the biggest meltdown in 1959. It was the first reactor to power a city up there. Okay. Then they had what's called the SNAP program, and those are small reactors like they put on a satellite, the Voyager.
SNAP?
SNAP, small nuclear, what is it? I don't want to get into it. SNAP reactor. Okay. I drove 20 hours straight.
I know.
Okay.
I know I pulled you in here, but I wanted you.
Okay. So anyway, the facilities here are fantastic, and he will help you if you want to get into doing your own thing. As far as podcasting. I'm never going to be on this with you again. You're coming in here and there was a guy that had his own radio show and people would call in and he was like the conspiracy guy late at night on AM radio that you could drive all night and listen to him. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but he's dead.
Well, but you could take over now.
I know who you're talking about, aliens and everything else.
Yeah,
There's
everything.
a comedian right now. I can't remember his name. So anyway, let's go back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It'll give you, it's not excuses, but the way the Lord works.
But I had you going, I want
BESS, Moss.
I want lithium and all you know about that. I want obviously you can always emissions, and what I'm really curious about too is, because
why your GMC is blowing up.
I don't care about GMC. We're blowing up.
You drive
I
one.
do. I have a Chevy and it works just fine. It's just a pickup truck, but quite a bit. In oil and gas, we have to think. So we consider ourselves very conscientious environmentalists on our side because
you keep saying that. Okay.
But here's why, and I can prove it because financially, if we waste money. Okay, we hate that, right? I'm always looking for return on my investment in the energy sector.
You look. Oil and gas. Okay. Oil and gas is nothing compared to all the plutonium that's on this
Right. We're small scale.
We haven't even gotten to.
But we do want to make sure we are good steward of our resources, because if there's any waste,
There's no doubt.
which means that there's environmental waste. Okay. That means also financial waste to us. So it's the same. So we're very conscientious of any kind of waste. If it's impacting the environment, that means we have wasted money. So we don't want to do anything to harm. And we're all out,
And you declare bankruptcy, and it's somebody else's problem.
there's a lot of well, I mean, there's
That's
a lot
what I said.
There's a lot of talk right now about plugging and abandoning wells. I'm still on the side
Oh
of
man, you got something great. I was trying to find an investor for you if you want it.
I am fortunate because of my uncle's product, the Vision Seal by Underground Vision Technologies. It's taken off. Texas Railroad Commission is now all on board with like, hey, that's the thing you ought to.
I had some people from environmental that I ran that by.
The replacement for bridge plugs. Now, that's what I mean. Bridge plugs, plugging and abandoning, just think of, hey, we're going to put cement below and above this bridge plug and make sure that the well doesn't leak, gases or liquids anymore, grand scheme of things. But this is the replacement for that plug. It's the seal, because you can pull a swedge through it and make sure it cold welds itself to the well bore, and there's no room for gaps and erosion to come around and let methane or liquids leak out of it.
So I did
That's so simplistic.
No, I did an AI search on how many are open, and then I did further down the rabbit hole on as far as the gas release and how the methane.
Possibly in the United States, 8 million wells,
Yeah.
possibly. And now I'm team save the wells, right? Turn the eco people on their heads, like not save the whales, save the wells. Maybe we can repurpose them. But even then, if we have an idea, hey, I don't have the technology or the capital to repurpose a wellbore right now. Cool. Let's go set one of these seals in it, and we can come back to it later. And that's why in my head, like, I don't want to cement everything. I just like to put some seals in it, and that way we don't have to, drill out all of the stuff with the cement. Like, let's just go seal them up then until, they're producing, or we use them for geothermal or energy storage capacities. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with the wellbore. You've already got a straw in the ground. You've got infrastructure you've got the road, you've got the power lines out there, on and on and on. It seems like such a waste of resources to just go and seal a well and abandon the site.
Well, I don't want to go away from this.
I know.
This
That's
topic, but not the topics. We have like 3 rolling around here.
we actually have about 100.
100, yeah.
Sorry, bud.
But as far as the topic that you're on, it's vital. And I think I did a post on it that I think if the gallons of oil used per train car, something like that, in a day, we use in the United States a tank car train 300 miles long in a day. Okay, and then you go back on that as far as, if I'm correct, 60% is transportation, 40% is everything else, chlorine, bromide, whatever comes off of it. And that's what we can address, okay, on that. Carbon, look. So God, I'm going all over. Let's finish Moss.
Yeah, well, the reason we're discussing the reason we're discussing this is because I'm such a protective fan of natural gas. I'm very long and very bullish.
I got it.
And I see all of this stuff, and that's how we start talking. It's like, man, you're from California. I'm very curious about your thoughts on energy and energy policy. And then I see all these battery systems out there.
I think you're poking around on something we talked about. You might as well, when you're talking about the environment, let's talk about recycling.
Recycling, yes.
Okay.
That's
that was on your list, right?
Yeah, I put that on there, and so did you, because what are all of these batteries going to do to the recycling?
I'm a big guy. I can't
world.
spell. Memory's terrible. And I was getting to why, because my whole family was exposed to, when they had that meltdown. My father brought it home for my oldest son.
The nuclear meltdown.
Yeah, that was in 55, but there was...
And he pretty much died because of that.
No, my father?
Yeah, right? No.
Just what it did is whacked him.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I went my whole life with like similar things of ADHD, and we can talk about that too. It's interesting stuff, what you learn. But I didn't learn that he was there and exposed to it until I was shutting down after I told you about my nephew. Not shutting down, but working in the family home, which is still there, little 1,000-square-foot home. We had 6 of us in there. So the life got totally dysfunctional. I mean, really super dysfunctional. I mean, abuse like you wouldn't believe and so forth. No sexual, but just tough. And that changes the mind. And when we get into raising a child, because I researched the heck out of it. Like when you adopt a son or something after we had those losses, you have to take a year of classes. And then when you do that, like an ADHD, it's having a super brain. So the same thing happens when you're a child going through a dysfunctional family. And where the problem is it develops your brain differently. It develops it into a super brain. Okay, so most men are in their caveman survival mode. Honest to goodness.
I might be one of those.
No, definitely, because you're a man. Women are a little different. Their whole brain is active at one time. Look up Mark Gonger, and he does a thing called Christian men's brains, women's brains.
You're the reason I'm going to have a wreck on the road someday. I'm always having to write
nuts.
down. When you talk, I know, but you want me to pay attention while I'm driving and talking to you, and it's impossible because I either have to write it down or I have to look it up.
Well,
what am I supposed to be taking notes on right now?
Mark Gonger, Gonger, I believe. Men's brains, women's brains. And he talks about the difference.
I hope you guys are understanding. Like, you got to listen to him all the time. Go, whatever you're doing, stop listening to me and my podcast and go follow him. And I think I'm going to just send you a camera and a microphone.
We're making him dizzy right now because if you see this desk I'm at, I have everything paper.
He brought in like his entire file cabinet of his.
A lot of those are offsite.
Of the first part of his first drawer.
Okay. Right. So the family got contaminated. My father, growing up, let's see, I had these photos for you. The way we're going to do it is he'll probably include some of them. But
yeah, you're going to give me your whole drive.
This is my father, who was a WWF wrestler.
He was way better shape than you are.
Yeah, the reason I didn't show you, well, when I was doing the car washes, I'm proud that I'm back down to 205 and 5'10", and but I was up to almost 280 when I was doing car washes.
That's so stressed. Yeah, your dad was a specimen.
AAU weightlifting champion.
My gosh.
Yeah, he was something.
He's a unit.
Okay, so the story behind that is
what's all the medals?
AAU weightlifting champion in the South Central. So he's a football star, wearing a leather helmet, and then this weightlifting and wrestling. He got into wrestling, and they traveled around in trains on the East Coast. This is during post-war, I think, whatever. I think he served as an ensign, and then he you'll get it in there. You can keep it, put it in there, and so it was like ring wrestling show.
I want to, man. You know how much I'd pay to watch your dad?
Not WWF.
I know, but
this is like
I kind of wish I could watch your dad wrestle midgets. He'd win them all.
But they come out and they main event or whatever. They all wrestle and then they come out with masks on.
Right.
Like they do in Mexico.
No, luchador or whatever.
And they go after each other. And then they have tag teams.
I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher that. Yeah.
And they had tag teams, stuff like that. So they traveled around.
Cutting edge.
That. And he had, that son of a gun, he had I'm not kidding you, $200,000. And this is important where it comes up. When right around that era where he was working as an engineer. So they started traveling like east, and in Denver he went after the Mountain Man. The Mountain Man twisted both of his knees off, and in the ring he told him, "Get the hell out of my state."
My goodness.
So I don't want to. So that was that. So then he finished his second degree, metallurgical chemical. Okay, and then he went to Southern California from St. Louis after he married my mother. So it's interesting. My father had a sister that died. He was one child, and my mother was the youngest out of 13. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I love those family. I mean, I had the similar background grandparents that had 12, 13, brothers and sisters on each side. That was your dad's slide rule.
Yeah, I picked that on you. So how many people, you blew it for me, darn you. Okay, so
I can reverse it and make people guess what that is.
So that when they talked about the space program and so forth.
Right.
Okay, when you lived in the San Fernando Valley, where I was, and because we were real wealthy back then, but I'm not doing this, we went to military school. Like I was, even at a first grade was the only one I attended, but my brothers and so forth, even the one that was, whacked, really bad shape, poor guy. He was very smart. He was ambidextrous like my dad. He could write either way. Cursive, math was great. It's just getting out there, that part is damaged so I have a picture of my father holding him in his arms, and when you do the timeline of the incidents, so his deal was high temperature stainless. Okay. So when they do high temperature stainless, great story. I guess it would apply very well. Sodium cooled reactors and now
well, I mean, we're
going to get to that.
Yeah, we were talking. I mean, I do want to talk about the next generation energy. We hope will be nuclear.
No, you're going to have it.
Yeah.
So
but when?
China, as far as a modular nuke
Yeah.
has about 4 or 5 underway and 120 planned.
Okay.
Now, it's kind of ridiculous that the person that makes 80% of all the batteries.
How small do you think they'll become?
Well, if you go back to World War II.
Transportable.
We go back to World War II. Russia had one, as you said, on the table.
Wow.
And they use that like a little local generator. It produces heat. That's all you need. And they didn't have like, what am I talking about? Not thermistors, but something, anyway, we'll get into that. So they had those. You can go on those sites and have that. And they had cities just in the, near the Alaska where they did most of their nuclear stuff, their hidden cities, you call it, and things like that. So we're doing the same thing because we're, so a good story why we have water-cooled reactors, I think. And this is, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is totally my opinion. We're going to put a disclaimer on the front end of it. But most of this is, I got the receipts. I just heard that, started using that one. So it's basically just time and time again, okay, I hear this here. Let's go back to this. Let's look at this. Just like Ford Motor Company, stuff they're playing around with and did. So cool stuff. So anyway, I think it was Admiral Rickover in the 50s. We wanted to put ICBMs and so forth in submarines, and we wanted to go from battery diesel to nuclear. So, so General Electric and Westinghouse. This is a.
Well, it's fascinating to me because we all talk about getting these modular reactors, and in my head, I'm like, we already have them. They're in military submarines and military ships.
Different.
But it's nuclear powered, and they're small enough to take a submarine forever around the globe.
We have 5 players that are going to be in that.
Yeah, it's not like we don't know how to do it. Let's get them out to cities.
Here's why, and then I'll jump over. So I'll get done with the story. So GE Westinghouse did those first nuclear water cooled. It was right there. At the same time, in the 50s, you're designing stuff. We went to the moon using this. So you use the get one of these. This is my father's.
They're lucky they were there doing that. Yeah.
So you do your multiplication. You slide this around, and it does your calculations. And this is what we had. This is how we got to the moon. Okay, this is how we built thermonuclear reactors. So the cooling process and all of those things that you get with those wasn't tight enough, and so you had your accidents, and you started having those. Out there you should go. It's called SSFL. That's Sam F as in Frank L. Santa Susana Field Laboratory. It's the biggest
Santa Susana
Field Laboratory. And it's the most contaminated.
Why would you send me? I just wrote that down. Like, no, I'm not going to visit that.
You drive right by it.
I don't want to.
So anyway,
you should go visit that. Thanks, bud.
You can visit the site.
I know. Yeah, I'm interested, but I'd just rather look at Google.
So when I lived in Chatsworth, you had a couple things during that. You had civil defense sirens,
right?
Not tornado sirens, and they were loud. And then you had in the parking lots, like at a, I don't know, what's Piggly Wiggly, Safeway, things like that, as food store, an Anchor Mall. They look like the 6,000-gallon fiberglass tanks, underground tanks for a gas station. And then they had a hatch on the top, so they sold fallout shelters. That's how it was back then. And we did
fallout shelters.
Yeah, we did the duck and cover.
Oh yeah, get under your desk and put your butt up in there and cover your eyes.
About 2 times a week, you had to almost, if you're close to Topanga Canyon, you had to hold your hands almost over the ears because they shot up a rocket motor and you'd see the cloud. So you had hydrazine and alcohol and everything. It's all over the place. Serious. So it's some of the measurements were 200 times what 3 Mile Island was. Crazy, huh? And Bill Gates is getting 3 Mile Island, at least the one reactor there.
We're giving Bill Gates?
No, he's buying it.
Come on.
But he's operating it under another company.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Just like Moss Landing.
He's getting paid to buy it by somebody.
So anyway, more people in my family were more impacted than I was.
By nuclear.
Yeah, but me, like I said a sales professional because it's my profession, 40 years, 30,000 face-to-face selling calls. 4 years time on the edge of the carpet at a trade show, not sitting in a chair. And just like, I work with a realtor.
We don't have chairs in my booth.
Good. You can't afford them anyway.
No. Yeah, no one's buying our solution.
That's kind of my excuse for some of it. But remember, it was a blessing in disguise because I lived my whole life, all those days not knowing. And then a year ago, I found out why. It wasn't just my father going nuts on me, although that probably had an effect. But I had an
You
escape.
think? Yeah, that's that's impactful.
But my escape was,
As somebody that you held up on such a pedestal as an incredible man, you got.
now I do.
Well, I think you probably did back then too, but
No, not in a lot. I ran away from that house a lot. So I'm with a foot deep of snow on the ground.
Yeah, but
It's that tough. But anyway, I had a guy that lived down the
fathers are
street.
impactful.
I had Jeff Munlock and his dad, who eventually became the chief financial officer of McDonnell Douglas. So that's where what saved me, by God, is that was the normal family. I go, this is a normal family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I knew what I was into, and I could escape. Like I didn't even bring a book home from high school at all. Okay, so you go from some foot deep of wrapping paper going to military school with, it would be, who's the guy that did the Yellowstone?
Sam Sheridan or Tyler Sheridan?
The male actor. The great guy. Anyway,
I don't know.
well, it would be like, it wasn't Nicolas Cage. It was like going to school with Clark Gable's kids.
Okay.
So you went to downtown LA and you got fitted for a suit or cloth. So they had that, white tablecloth, and you sat around with like ex-military guys, and you don't put your elbows on the table and all that. And here's how you do this and all that. So that, and two, when he lost all that money, losing the house, and that money was enough for maybe 25 homes in California now that are a few $1 million, to living on top of an unheated restaurant in St. Louis, and he's working downstairs as a bartender. Yeah, just because he got the damage from that, not from wrestling, because that was kind of fake wrestling. But tremendous guy, very talented, and I was lucky enough to be his favorite because I like nuts and bolts stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're jumping all over.
Engineer, it's fine.
But main thing is
I expected nothing less.
But
I do.
Through your life, everybody's looking for a mentor. Mentors don't have to like you. You don't have to have a love affair. You just have to respect them, and you have to have them. They're smart enough to be your mentor. And then you don't suck up to them, but you ask for help.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 40
I
years.
don't think any of my mentors like me. They just I think they feel sorry for me, and that's fine. I'll still jump hurdles because
Yeah.
I don't have to, I got good information from seasoned people I know.
All right. So we got the nuclear accident out of the way. So small modular reactors are designed a lot of different ways with a variety to be simple. Not that you guys can't comprehend it. It's just to be simple and move
We're
on.
learning.
It's a small modular reactor, and they were be used like batteries.
Yeah.
So if you need 2 gigawatt, which is 2,000 megawatt, which is like San Onofre in Southern California, 2 gigawatt, or some of the other reactors, or whatever you need, you have the small modular reactor cooled by sodium. Then you have the intermediates using helium, the real small ones and things like that. So there's a lot of players out there right now, but the only ones that I think are really going to go somewhere are Bill Gates with TerraPower, privately held company. Okay, the people that are in there, the guys that used to be with other reactors, Bechtel, a lot of the others. Okay, and then who's the guy that's got $500 billion cash right now? That investor?
Elon?
No, Elon's, don't worry about Elon.
Jeff Bezos?
No,
No idea.
Hathaway. What is it? Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? The guy from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so he has bought into, he got, I think, the rights for transportation.
Oh, there we go. Transportation of these
Now,
things.
what can that be? All right, so you think about that. That's a key word.
Shipping around the globe.
No.
Right?
We can get into that when we talk about.
If
we're
every,
going to talk about solid hydrogen.
let's get into that too.
Take these papers and just throw them against the wall.
Well, because here's the deal. What I look at is, and I've got a really good friend right now, president of Turbine X, and I want to help them. Like, hey, when are we going to get these small, nuclear reactors?
I'll be dead for sure. In about 10 years, you're really going to see it, but it's going to phase in.
In the meantime,
You have the Band-Aid.
the energy demand, the hockey sticks are just zooming up. And what I have right now available for human populations to continue for human flourishing is I have natural gas. This is our lane, everybody. So in the meantime,
if they are followers, not just but followers on your podcast, they have all that in their mind right now.
okay, but
Well, you're trying to evangelize and bring more in?
as fast as we can, let's get as many.
You're trying to fight the negativity around petroleum.
Always education on that, but both can be true at the same time.
Okay, so if you want to get a debate with somebody that believes in EV, we can take that topic. Why the heck do they not throttle an EV? You can have a Chevy Bolt blow the doors off my twin turbo Ford EcoBoost. Okay, and that's
Yeah.
350 horsepower or whatever. And,
Yeah.
Okay, so if you really believe in that, all right, then why don't you throttle them back instead of using that as a selling point?
I don't want
that's
I
number
don't want
one.
to throttle anybody.
Well,
back.
no.
Like I'm here for education
Okay,
only, but
But I'm separating.
I like to look at timelines. Like how long do I have to get as many because right now the bottleneck is getting engines for these turbines. Right, everybody needs more energy.
What country makes them?
We have like one in the U.S. right now that makes the engines. Everybody else. I think
Is it the same type of foundry need and so forth like you have?
Yeah,
for,
we've got a huge bottleneck on getting engines
like
for
a
turbines.
GE
Yeah,
fan, turbo fan?
everybody's waiting in line for the engines for the turbines, and
get some old helicopters.
yeah, there's there's just so much energy demand in getting these out there
I know.
that I'm trying to keep track in my head of like how many turbines can we get out to natural gas to get power online through that, because we have to wait. Like, are we going to wait?
Well, you get
Five,
back to, well, you get
are
back
we
to
going to wait
supply
5 years, 10 years, or 15 years for everybody to roll out the the modular reactors?
You're going to get the boilers and steam engines, pal.
Anyway,
Let's talk about the demand.
that's
if you
what
want
we're
to talk about.
that's
demand.
what I'm seeing too. Is I just got back from that geothermal conference as well, and I think in the interim we're going to have both. And what I thought was going to be a 5 to 10 year buildup of geothermal energy is looking like the people I talked to were like, we want to have more rigs running for geothermal energy in the next 2 years than we do for oil and gas. That was an insightful, informational and impactful visit with those guys. And at least I know, okay, well, there is more energy coming online, because I never want to pretend I'm bougie. I just never want to run out of energy and use as much of as I want.
Let me. As far as
In California,
wait.
and you being from California, and I see all your problems that you guys have had with energy demand and like what they're, thinking about restricting people
you got to
to
go.
use.
You got to go through the haze.
Yeah, there's a lot of haze.
No. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of negativity, and there's a lot in your.
I'm not a student. I'm a learner, so I pick your brain a lot.
One ex-wife taught me eat the chicken and throw away the bones.
Yeah, and we have about 3 minutes left, and I'm going to kill this first episode of us. By the way,
Okay.
you got 3 minutes.
All right. So when we come back,
You tell them everything you want to tell them in the next 3 minutes to make them want to come back.
make them want to come back. Well, let me do Elon Musk and think. Hard.
They'll want to come back. You see what
Oil and gas.
You see these people on me, and like I drag them to this podcast
gotta-
studio.
I'll finish this.
He thought we could get all this done in a lot shorter time.
I was prepared. So let's do it this way. Is when you seek in an investment, it's totally different than you actually have something.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of people out seeking. There's a lot of $1 billion and $1 million being thrown down a hole. Okay, by people that don't know, people that have been. They don't know. I mean, when you're in that 7,200 day period from your 26 to your 46. That's why most of your divorces are in their 50s when the kids are out of the house. Okay, is you don't have time for that. You're coming home at 5 o'clock, the most important part of the day, and you're gut wrenched from throwing everything in it. If you get home at 5 o'clock in the day, if you're not traveling like you, so that is a blind spot. But your kids are going to be gone someday. You got to look at your wife, and
She looks good.
this is I haven't met her. I'm sure she is, but that's only half of it. Like money, wealth is not just money.
No.
Okay, we know that. So anyway, when you get past that and you have time to do it, and you're fortunate enough to really work at it, you'll be able to do different things. And when you have a nuts and bolts, I mean, I got 7 toolboxes. I'm proud of it. And you'll be able to, and basic math is all you need. You'll be able to look through all the baloney, because these people with PhDs and everything else, they're great. We have to have them, but they never stripped a wire. You know what I mean? They never filled the gas tank, got their finger cut off, any of that stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. See you later. Thanks.
His finger was cut off. This is Steve, and stay tuned for episode number 2. Wave the camera with me. Take care.
Sorry, folks.
God bless you. And they're never. No one's ever sorry for watching this. They're confused about why they keep watching it, but they're not sorry. God bless you. Love you. Take care. Bye.
That's good.